Towards the right. And then you hit record. Start. And then you have to switch it to the left to hold so it will stay up. And then to stop it, you have to switch it off, hold. It stopped.
Right now it's on.
It's on, it's recording.
Cool.
And that's probably.
Thank you.
Right on time.
Am I make, should I make?
I mean, exactly.
Sorry.
Come down the road, there's a mobile home in front of me, 2 miles. How are you? Yeah, equip us with sirens for such.
Are we important?
Absolutely.
Welcome. The meeting is now begun, and we will begin our meeting today with our Pledge of Allegiance, led by Craig Kennedy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Mr. Chairman, no one has signed up to speak during the public comment time.
Okay, okay. What I'd like to do first is, for those who might be listening in today to know who we are and who is here, I'm Charles McKnight. I'm the chair of the Board of Elections. I thank all of my peers for being so kind to me thus far. And I'd like for everyone here, if you would just raise your hand and state your name.
Craig Kennedy. Richard Ashton.
Martin Carpenter.
I'm Bill Case.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We've already been notified by our director that there are no public comments today. We're always supposed to make a statement about a conflict of interest. And I think we're all cognizant and know that we must avoid even the appearance of impropriety. And so now that we have had a moment to look over the agenda, is there any reason for anyone to bring any cause for any such conflict? No conflict. Then we'll proceed with the approval of our minutes, and we'll ask our director, Glenda, to let us know where we are in everything.
Okay, your minutes were furnished to you,
Yes.
and Richard has them. If they're approved, we'll get everybody to sign them, okay?
Okay. We just need a motion on our minutes.
I'll move that we accept the minutes as prepared and submitted to us. Second.
Second, it's been properly second. You've heard the question. You're prepared to vote.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And now we will begin with our old business. Mr. Clerk.
And Mr. Chairman, we have nothing on the old business today.
No old business, so we continue. Madam Director, if you could introduce each point on our new business, I would appreciate it.
Okay, we are looking at the absentee meeting schedule, and I have furnished you the dates that are required by the statutes, as well as we add the Saturday that one stop ends at the end of that period, and we add the Monday on the eve of the election. Now, we will have two conflicts. One is on the day of canvass of the primary, which is the 12th of October. That is also canvass, and canvass by statute has to be 11 o'clock. And so you might want to go ahead and move that absentee meeting time up till noon. Would that be okay with you, Bill?
How long do you think that meeting would take?
I can't think the canvas will make more than 30 minutes.
That would help. I do have a conflict, where I have to be somewhere at 1.
Okay. At one.
Would there be any reason we couldn't do it before the,
Well, y'all can certainly come in at 10 for the absentee meeting, but we cannot start canvas till 11. So
Right.
is it in favor of the board to go to 10 o'clock for the absentee meeting on the 12th?
What is the pleasure?
I would appreciate it if it's no inconvenience to anybody. That's fine with me.
Or just making a motion, go ahead.
Okay.
All right, since it's my issue, and I'll move that we change the October 12 absentee meeting from 1 o'clock to 10 a.m. Second.
It has been moved and second, we will move the absentee meeting until 1 o'clock,
No, from 1
from
o'clock
1 o'clock until
10 a.m.
10 a.m. It has been moved and seconded, we will move the absentee meeting from 1 o'clock to 10 a.m. You've heard the question, you prepared to vote.
Yes.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no.
Thank
So
you very
moved.
much.
So moved.
And
Oh, well,
Mr. Chair, also on the day of the primary, which is Tuesday the 5th, we'll be coming in at 2 o'clock to begin the absentee count. And so I recommend that time be different also, and I've shown that in the resolution, 2 o'clock rather than 1 o'clock. That's already on the schedule. If that's meets the approval of the board.
on Tuesday the 5th.
October the 5th, yeah, because that's the primary day.
And you gonna move from October, move it
I
to
have
what
it
time?
on the schedule as 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
So we're moving that till what
It
time?
will be 2 o'clock that day rather than 1 o'clock. We've been meeting at 1.
Do we need a motion to,
I'd like to have a motion, and everything, just so we
all right, and I will move that in accordance with the director's statement just made, that we move the October 5th absentee meeting from to 2 o'clock from 1 o'clock. I second that.
It has been moved and seconded, we would move the absentee meeting till 2 p.m. All in favor, yeah, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Thank you, Madam Director.
Thank you. Now, we need to adopt a time to count the absentee ballots. And y'all all have the statutes that say the earliest we can do that is at 2 o'clock on the 5th. And so I have prepared the resolution, and it will be advertised in the paper. That's required. When we change our times from what's in the statute, we do have to give 30 days notice. So you have that resolution to change that to 2 o'clock for the absentee count on both October the 5th and then on November the 2nd election date also.
We're just waiting for a motion on that, please.
Can we have some discussion on that?
Yes, please.
I don't see specific resolution calling for counting on election day. Is that, do we need a specific one for that or not?
I'm sorry, I will prepare that, I thought I had. so-
Well, maybe I'm wrong. I got it wasn't on the two schedules.
Okay.
But we have this resolution to establish the begin count of absentee ballots.
Well, I will prepare a resolution that'll have to be signed because all these things go into the state in a survey monkey, but then we have to attach to our paperwork the resolutions that y'all have. So if y'all can just go ahead and adopt a resolution for that, please.
So the resolution you would like would be to
Begin to count the absentees at 2 p.m.
at 2 p.m. on election day, November 6th.
Yes,
All right. Just so it's clear.
both on primary day and election
Well,
day.
didn't we already do that for primary day?
At 2 o'clock on the 5th.
Yeah, so this is another motion to make that clear for election day.
Okay.
So then I would move that we establish our time for beginning the count of the absentee ballots on election day, November 2nd at 2 p.m.
I'll second that.
It's a moved and properly second that we begin the time for counting at 2 p.m. on election day. You heard the question, you prepared to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. So moved.
And then next, Mr. Chairman, we are required to adopt a buffer zone and advise the candidates of that. And y'all have been furnished the buffer zone from the previous elections. And it says that they can be that they have to be no closer than 50 feet. If that ends up in the middle of a highway, we can come in a little closer. But I don't know that we have any that we end up being any closer than the 50 feet.
Okay, just for my understanding, it can't be further than 50 feet, but not closer than 25, so it'll be between 25 and 50 feet, right?
They're generally 50 feet.
Okay, but the standard is 50.
Yes,
Yes. And in riding by and looking at those voting places, we saw that they were set up to be 50 feet away. So we have verified some of those.
Do we specify areas where people can set up
We do.
tents? I saw it on some locations, but I didn't see it at all of them.
that is correct. The statute says that you shall provide for a place for electioneering. And we have so many complaints from the public. If we, like over at the Ag Center and at the Village Hall in Pinehurst, at the Legion Hut in Aberdeen, you've got a sidewalk that divides the yard. And so we normally rope off 2 different sides of that sidewalk and ask them to stay in there. If there is a designated roped off, they have to stay in there to do their electioneering.
And Madam Director, the judges there, it is their duty to make sure that occurs, correct?
Do you want?
The judges at those different places, it's their duty to make sure that occurs.
Well, we actually, as the county, when we take out all of our materials, we rope that off and they'll get the aerial pictures of where there is a designated area. And also your buffer zone notice say there is a designated area. It is up to the judges to enforce that, but they generally call us and the public generally calls us.
Is there any other discussion? If not, we just need to move to adopt what is already established.
Okay, I move that we accept the director's buffer zones.
Second.
All in favor, let it be known or heard by the sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. So moved.
Next on our agenda is the resolution for out of precinct voting places. The Fair Barn does not, it serves Pinehurst C precinct, but it does not lie within the boundary of Pinehurst C. It is adjacent to that. The same way as Pinecrest High School is not inside that precinct. And so if there's not an acceptable place, the statutes allow the board to use the out of precinct voting places, but it is only good for the term of this board. So every time we hit a new board, we have to ask the state for permission. And so those places that we're using that are out of precinct have been previously used for many years. I don't know where we would put the crowd that goes to Pinehurst C. There's not another facility that can take care of them.
Yes. Any discussion about it? If not, let's move to adopt.
Make a motion that we accept the resolution for continuance of out of precinct voting places. Second.
It's been second that we will continue to use those sites. All in favor, let it be known by the sign aye.
May I just agree in
Yes, I'm
discussion,
sorry.
because I just want to make sure I know what I'm voting on.
Yeah.
There are two separate resolutions that are kind of a similar import. One called resolution for continuance of out of precinct voting places, and the other one is to temporarily transfer towns of Southern Pine voters to other precincts.
That is a different matter.
Okay, so we're doing on the one that's,
I skipped over that one by mistake.
okay, I got it.
That what we're voting on are that the statutes allow us to use adjacent voting sites when what is not available, where the precinct voters are. Is that correct? So now that we're clear about that, when someone again put that into a vote.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution for continuance of out of precinct voting places.
Yes. Second. It's been so moved. You've heard the question, prepared to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So
Okay,
moved.
Mr. Chair, now I'm going to go back to the temporary transfer of municipal voters. There are several voters, as you can see, that live in the Eastwood precinct, and Eastwood will not be open on election day. One lives in Taylortown, and so we'll just advise that person to go to Taylortown precinct that day. You got several in Carthage, right, Angela? I think it's a total of 19. Y'all have that resolution before you. And since their regular voting place will not be open on election day, we're temporarily transferring, and we give them first-class notice. We also send them sample ballots, and we let them know about early voting if it's allowed in that precinct, in that municipality. So we give them all the options of where they can go to vote. And so they'll get two notices. We send it 30 days ahead, and then we send it about a week out to remind them.
Out of curiosity, is this kind of a typical thing we do at municipal elections because of this issue?
Yes.
And I think the total from those 3 or 4 places is 19.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And also, I want to be clear that those, according to the statute, who live there can vote by absentee ballot if they choose to.
That is correct.
Let's put that to a motion, please.
I move that we adopt the resolution to temporarily transfer certain town of Southern Pine voters, town of Carthage voters, and Taylortown voters to other precincts for the 2021 municipal election cycle.
Is there a second?
Second.
Well, it's been moved and properly seconded that those 19 voters would be voting at this one site, and that they do have the right for absentee voting. You, it's been moved and properly second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then so moved. Madam Director.
Mr. Chair, the next thing on our agenda today is the one-stop plan for Southern Pines primary. And you have been given the recommendation of the board that we conduct that one-stop voting here in our office. And so if the board has any questions, we would be open our regular office hours as required by statute. And also the last Saturday will be open from 8 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Is there any discussion on that? All right, let's put that into the motion as well. One of the reasons for that, instead of the accent, is expense, but it's in the same proximity, so it was viewed that that would not be a problem. Is that correct?
Well, the statute says you use the Board of Election office unless it is not adequate, then you can do it in lieu of site, which is what we would do in November, or we would ask that you would do in November, which
Yes.
would be the Ag Center, since it's in the same proximity.
And this is just for the primary.
But right now, we're talking about the primary, we will stay here in the office.
Okay. Somebody, would you make a motion to adopt the one?
I move that we adopt the one-stop plan put to us by the director.
That includes both sheets you gave us, the general municipal elections and the Southern Pines primary, or just one?
We're just doing the primary right now.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So you may have a second on that?
Second.
Okay.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded that we will adopt this one-stop plan here at the Board of Elections. You heard the question, you prepared to vote.
Yes.
All right, on in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And so, I have one suggestion to make, but before I do, is there anything that we need to, Madam Director, or anyone that we need to address before we adjourn?
Why? You still got the,
We have to do
November.
the one-stop plan for November.
November.
Oh, for November, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry.
And on that, we are proposing that we go to the Ag Center. And we're also proposing that we be open 2 Saturdays to give a little more time to the people.
Yes.
So we would be open on the 30th and also on October the 23rd. So we'd be open 2 Saturdays with the hours being 8 to 3, both Saturdays, to cut down confusion about what our hours are.
So would someone put that in?
I'll move that we adopt the one-stop plan for the November 2, 2021 municipal election as has been submitted by the director.
I'll second that.
This is moved and properly seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And so moved. Is there anything else that's been overlooked or anything else that needs that we brought to our attention?
Well, Mr. Chair, I have been asked by one of our new members about how we consider absentee ballots. And so I'll be getting that out to y'all about what is a good ballot, what isn't. But we've also asked the state about having to print the percentage of ballots for these elections that you have no turnout. Because, Angela, how many voters does Southern Pines have? 10,000 something? And we don't even have 800 people to vote. So I have a memo that I'd like for y'all to have, and we will order 50%. On all of the municipals. We'll order a minimum of 50% for all of them, which saves the town a good deal of money. So it's an older memorandum, but it's what they have given us as a guideline. And since we only had 97 people to vote the last primary, we'll be well over that, as you can imagine. And I have given you today in the brown envelopes a copy of the director's job description that's on file with the county, and also the steps. Now, the steps meaning whatever criteria your candidate for employment might have, that will help determine what the starting salary would be. If they meet certain criteria, they will be in a higher step. And I'll send you out that salary and the steps. You'll also see the duties and responsibilities that were adopted by the board a year ago for that position. And so Ann and I are working on it to bring the description up to date to hopefully get some requirements of some knowledge concerning virtual training. And we know that who the director is coming forward, they need some technology training too. And I personally think that needs to be in the steps that, that if they don't have the ability in teaching, that they take some courses in instruction, because that's the key to the game right now, is instructing everybody, whether it's helping your staff learn technology or whether it's helping the public precinct workers learn that. So we'll be working on that. And once we get a job description that the board is happy with, then it will be advertised. And that will be done through the county. And they require that people apply online. So if they have a resume they want to submit, that's in addition to what they're doing. They make sure that we're following all the laws and don't get sued for misspeaking in the process of employment.
Yes, Madam Director, also what we probably need to do, or what we should do, is make sure that we have the guidelines for a director from the state, so that when we do decide on one, and having got with the local HR, that we'll make sure that whatever we come up with is in line with them. I'm sure you've already done that. But we also need to have a date when we're going to come together, because this is a really, really important decision. We need to establish a date we're going to come together with what the state requires and what we think that we need. One thing I did notice on that first day as far as technology, outside of your particular jobs, if you've got to call someone in when there's a technological problem, when an election is going on, that's really vital. So I know that we need to do this in a closed session, but is it possible to establish a date? Do we need to wait a while to collect the information? How long do you think it would take to collect the information before we can have a meeting to discuss that?
Well, we know that Mr. Carpenter's going to be out of town for a couple of weeks now.
The 14th and the 24th.
Okay.
But we have got to get the job description established.
I don't know the exact number, but we haven't said enough about the fact that you have announced that you're retiring, Madam Director, and of course you've done as much service to the county as probably anybody living. You've been here a long time, and and no one has any experience with replacing you, because you've been here for such a wonderfully long tenure. But that does cause an issue. It's what, 40 days or something like that before I think you announced your retirement effective, was it the 24th of September? Am I remembering that right?
That is correct.
I don't know whether you would be open to continuing that until we get somebody replaced or not, because it's going to put us, I don't know exactly what the timeline is. We haven't even established the timeline yet. but I would hope maybe we can prevail upon you to stay additional weeks if need be to, until we are able to do this in a orderly manner.
Right. Well, I will tell you that the county attorney in our conversation mentioned that it was important that the board consider naming an interim director, which you certainly can do. And of course, when I had the stroke and I was out for 3 months, Angela filled that position and she is capable of getting us through that. And Bill, as soon as I meet the criteria of whatever the retirement system says, I'll be happy to come back and to volunteer. As I've said Reverend McKnight, I'll be glad to be of service to y'all in any way I can.
That you had, and that's.
Because you want it to be a right decision. And there are things that the state will require of that person. Their background checks that we didn't used to have to do, criminal background checks that now are in the statutes. Now, whomever becomes a director, if they're not already in the elections business, but we are getting some interest from other counties and calls about it. So I think you're gonna have people that are very interested in coming from other counties, maybe to be your director, I don't know. But just know that Angela can get you through, and I'm made sure that I'm not leaving you in a bad position.
And an interim is, well, we've already, I don't know if it was unofficial before, but that's a procedure that's permissible.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what the county attorney says, you've got to name somebody in charge for that period of time, so.
So one of the meetings between now and the 24th, we need to appoint somebody.
That's right, or on after the 24th. And I can change my day anytime to give Bill an answer to his question. I can move it out if I have to. But I'm still waiting on some test results and want to know what my health answers are right now.
Well, that's the most important.
It is.
And I don't recall, was Angela officially recognized as the interim director of UofL?
Well, she was not named by the board as interim, but she was the second in command because of her seniority. But what Misty is saying is that since the statute gives so much responsibility to a director during an election, that it would be very important for y'all to name an interim,
Yes.
you know, so.
Madam Director, we can't, I don't think we can. That is too important. Everything
That's right.
hinges on- Everything hinges on this.
Right,
We're having some discussion now, and everyone takes suggestions seriously. And so that's something that we really need to contemplate, because there can be no downtime. There can be no downtime when it comes to something as essential as this. And so we need to get the information from the state. Also, the listing should be at the state level. It should be in the county, so we will be, in my opinion, so that we can have the capacity to choose from those that have some experience. Or they, we may decide to do something here that's open, and whatever comes, comes. You all know what we need. But we need to get on with this. What I had made a note to myself, what you were just going over is what I had a note. We need to be about getting all of the information as quickly as we can. And then matching, because human resources in this county may have an expectation that's not in lockstep with the state, you know, and so we gotta, most of
Well,
all
and
with us, yeah.
On that point,
Yes.
I was under the impression that we would probably have a closed section with the county attorney to give us those things that we need to be aware of regarding a personnel choice and the rules that prevail in the county, Moore County system. I don't think any of us really, well, Craig, you might have from your days as a commissioner know a little bit about that, but the rest of us don't. It seems to me we ought to ask for that meeting as soon as we can get her attention so that we're not too far along in the process and they say, oh, we didn't even do that right in the first place. We should have done this step with the county. So I would say, if, at one of these early absentee meetings or something, we have Missy come in and talk to us.
I think she'd be willing to come in just for a meeting for that. I know she would.
Well, that's fine too, as long as we can all be here.
Personnel, right?
Yes, yes.
That person should be present.
And she should be involved too, absolutely.
So what we need to do is to have the requirements from the state so that when we're discussing that with our county and what their requirements are, and how to plug someone in, we'll have all the information because we don't want to go through a process, then submit someone and say, oh, but I just, we're on the same page. I think everyone's on the same page, understanding the necessity of this and also to be contemplating an interim.
Well, you raise an excellent point, but I guess one thing I don't quite get is what do we expect specifically from the state? I know they do advertise, but are there criteria from the state that they owe us or anything?
Well, the bottom line to answer your question is that they have requirements for the position to approve whom we submit based on their
True
own
enough.
requirements.
That I know.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Because ultimately, it's going to be a decision of those 4 o'clock at this desk.
So it's not unfair to ask the executive director or somebody, maybe somebody on the legal staff for those criteria they look at. I assume it's written down somewhere.
Yes.
And then compare it to what the current job description is. And as we modify that job description, if we think there are other responsibilities that the director does, but they're not included, we include those in there, ensure it's still consistent with the state. And by that point, we should be good to go. And hopefully, even by no later than 1 September, which is even further down the road than I think it should be, but I would assume we should be able to post this job description hopefully by 1 September.
That's the preeminent thing on the table. Any other discussion?
Well, how are we going to get that information?
Yeah,
from
when
the
do you
state?
expect the job description to be updated?
By the end of the week.
End of the week?
But then y'all will have to approve it. But I'll give you my recommendations. Y'all go ahead and read what you see there, and y'all may have some more recommendations. But read the statute on replacing the director. It's very much wide open. They have taken, in some counties, and put in a former legislator that didn't know anything. And that's what the board wanted to do, and that's what they did. Of course, it didn't last, but
Well, and what you're saying is there may be no written standards whatsoever. on
other
this at
than
the
they
state
can't
level.
have a criminal record, there's certain things in background.
Yes.
Well, criminal. But is there anything beyond that?
Yeah, they have some other expectations as well. So what we need to do is get all the information. And then ultimately it's going to end up at this table. I mean, that's what we're elected and appointed to do. And Madam Linda has the experience to perhaps point us in some areas that we might not come.
Well, they don't have to wait for the state to send us anything. We can be setting up an appointment with the attorney and with the,
So do you want to do that now?
I think we ought to
Okay, well, let's set up, let's get a
We don't
date.
have much time.
Let's get a date.
Majority of everything that we've got to discuss is going to be an open meeting anyway. There's not really, other than, we're not going to discuss individuals,
No, no.
but the general job description.
Your interviews will just be in closed session.
Correct.
The only thing that's involved is the what we're talking about. Yes.
All right, so if we have a meeting with, unless we're discussing specific people, that would be an open meeting, presumably.
If we can't discuss personnel.
And when we decide salary or whatever, that'll be an open meeting also, it's public information. So,
And if you want to do this in this time period that I'm gone, I'm going to review the job description. And if I've got any recommendations, I'll make those recommendations so that they can be presented by the director or somebody else if you have a meeting. I don't want this to hold up just because I'm not going to be here. I believe we're all going to basically have the same criteria that we want for this individual, so I don't think there's going to be any real issue. So if you do this while I'm gone, I'll provide input and we'll go from there.
appreciate that.
We do.
If y'all will give me some dates that you're available.
That's what I'm still after. We need to have, perhaps we need to have definitive date from the people from the town that are going to be available, their dates.
Okay,
And of those dates, which ones can accommodate
can
our
you go ahead
capacity to be
and
there?
email Misty and Dawn and
Is
ask
there
them
one thing that we should do that way?
when they would
See,
be
when they're
available
available,
in the next 10
we can
days?
set a date if they're not available.
So we would be asking for the county, you said the personnel director,
HR director.
HR? Think it makes sense?
County attorney.
And do we want to try to combine this with a day we're already meeting, maybe advertise and do it earlier in the day and then.
Right, yeah, as soon as possible.
Right.
Well, I understand that. I guess what I'm saying, and it's what the board wants to do, that we need to do this as quickly as we can, as early as we can. Any delay, we just, unless you disagree, that's fine.
Sooner rather than later.
I'm fine with doing it next week. We got something here. If it works out on a date where we're already here, that's convenient, but if that doesn't work, that's fine too.
What I had jotted down was,
I'm trying to call her. 947-3200. For Misty.
I wondered, I had jotted down at an earliest possible date, maybe Thursday or Friday, the 11th or the 12th of this week.
I can't.
Oh, you can. Okay. Well, we'll pause, listen, and then see what's going to be next. And while we pause, that was the only other thing that I had on my agenda for today. Is there anything else pressing that we have not touched?
It was nice to get all the information personally delivered at home.
Oh, my gosh, yes. I don't think I've ever had that.
Well, that was the first for us. It was
Well,
no,
there's so many statute requirements. I felt it was good if I just gave that to you.
sure.
It was great.
Transcending even due diligence.
And we learned with sadness this morning that our county manager was involved in an automobile accident yesterday. Somebody went through a stop sign at McCaskill Road in 22. He was on his way into work. And he's having to have back surgery today, so he's not doing well. So his name is Wayne Vest, and we need to be in prayer for Wayne.
What was the interim manager that wound up in the accident town hall.
Mr. Westbrook,
Yep, Jim Westbrook. Yes, that's.
Is there anybody in the county who's got a longer tenure of service than you? At any level? Yours?
I think, this Mr. McKnight, I just signed
Are those the only two things to sign?
just one set of minutes is what you need to sign.
The additional resolution that we didn't have prepared, do you need us to sign them before we leave, or can we do that? How are we gonna do that?
I'm gonna go in there, but if it's okay, I'm gonna get you to sign it next week. I'll go in there and
That's
correct
fine.
those.
Whatever you need.
Yes. And I've sent a reminder, as y'all saw, to both party chairmen. They gotta get their names in. We've not heard from them. So. Just a reminder, you saw at the end of the agenda that we meet again next week. Marty gets out of that one.
If you can complete that by this week, I can sign it this week before I go.
Okay.
So it doesn't
I'll
sit
get
there
that
for
for
10
you,
days
Marty.
with
Thank
4
you. Yes.
signatures and not the 5th.
I will, thank you. And we do need your signature on the one-stop plan, and it's just a blank sheet. I thought we were unanimous, so Craig, if you could pass that around.
So tentatively, Missy and Dawn are available Thursday and Friday, the 12th or 13th, or Wednesday and Thursday of next week, 18th or 19th.
They're both available, Ken.
Tentatively, Missy was in a meeting, but these were the days that was free on her calendar according to Cheryl. Dawn said she's available those days if you just let her know. Assuming it's during the day, correct?
What were those days?
The 12th or the 13th, or Wednesday the 18th, and Thursday the 19th. Do any of those work for y'all?
Every day but the 19th works for me.
18th, well, I already said I couldn't do it Thursday and Friday, I understand, but 18th is fine. Obviously, we want to have unanimously here, so the chair needs to be here, so 18th.
18th
It's
is
okay.
fine for me. All but the 19th would be fine for me.
18th works for me.
Is the 18th?
All right.
Okay, I'll check with the times then.
It'd be nice if I could get here on the 17th, because we were all be here on the 17th.
And just to be clear, at one point we were talking about a possible meeting on the 19th, but my understanding is that went away.
That is correct.
Okay.
Madam Director, do we discuss the time? What was the time for the 18th?
We did not set a time.
We did not set a time. What is better, or the preference of the board?
Yes, that's what we need to do. We need to vote on a time? They said any time during that day is
Yeah,
fine?
they said as long as it's during the day.
Okay, cool. So let's put that to a motion about the time on the 18th.
Say the time.
Well, I'm an early bird. So the earlier the better for me. How about you?
I didn't say, I'm fine. I'm open that day, so.
That's right, anytime.
Okay, would 9 be okay for everyone?
That's like at 9 a.m.
I'll bring you some coffee.
We never know. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
It's just this.
All right, let's just go ahead and put that into a motion.
So what time did we say?
9 o'clock.
9:00.
Make a motion to meet to discuss personnel issues the 18th of August at 9 a.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moving properly second, and we will meet on the 18th for the matter of personnel regarding director. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So let us prepare to adjourn. But first, Heavenly Father, dear God, I thank you for the oneness displayed here today. Being able to, oh dear God, discuss with only a focus on the best needs of the people of Moore County. I pray that you will bless each one to give us the wisdom to always be in one place in one accord for the best of the people in this county. This is my prayer. I pray in your name. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moving properly second, we will adjourn. We are adjourned.